Good morning or good afternoon, beta testers. This is your 2016 beta test instructional or training video. It is not highly polished. We do it in one take. And so if you hear some strange sounds, it's because we're not going to redo it. Anyhow, unlike the other videos we do for the general customer base, but we just want to get the information across to you. Right now, what I'm showing is the website because it's easiest to do it that way. And we're going to go through briefly the changes for 2016, and then we'll go into each one that makes sense to get into. Some of them don't because there is no user interface. It's behind the scenes kind of stuff. So let's do that. First, expertise. That's the video discussion. We're going to continue that this year. We don't really need to show you that, but what the heck. That's the tab that we have on the system, and we also have the website where people can listen to our daily videos, usually done by me. Let me shrink this down a little bit. And it's just a discussion. So let's go back to this. That's the expertise. Hurricane forecast wind estimation improvements. Generally, this has to do with the National Land Cover Database that is the basis for the advanced wind estimation, and that's all under the covers. That's still a work in progress. We hope to have it obviously done by the time we ship in about a month, but that should improve the advanced wind estimating forecast. There's nothing that you need to do there. As a matter of fact, the new data is not even part of the system yet. Going down the list, and this is where most of your time will be spent, at least in these 3 to 4 items. Severe weather watch warning alerting system. We're going to go into the setup for this and what it looks like to some degree. Actually, what it looks like we can look at on this the following web page. And it does a number of things. First, I indicate on here that the alerting can be set up for either one location or many locations. You'll see how we do that. The alerts can be tailored to your base. In other words, that's where you can specify just your home location or as many locations as you want. The alerts can be displayed as a pop-up or emailed. The watch and warning information is optionally included as far as all the details of the statement that's been put out. And that's where we're going to specify the difference between some of this. This is just for severe weather statements, including tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, and special weather statements. Anything that has to do with convective or thunderstorm type weather. We don't have flash flood warnings or any of that in there yet. Alerting can be grouped so that if you're getting one email, you can see all the alerts rather than 10 different emails for each alert, although you can specify 10 different emails. And you can specify which ones you want to see. Do you want to see just tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings? Maybe you don't want to see every single special weather statement or tornado watch or thunderstorm watch. It's displayed within the observation program. All the alerting is done behind the scenes, but we'll see an example of this, but this would be an example of a tornado warning. It was near Baton Rouge, Louisiana, back in February, I believe. You can also see, here's a close-up of one that was occurring, a couple of them occurring in South Florida. That's the same one. Again, this is all within the observation program, how you would see them. The alerting is not done by the observation program. The alerting is done by the tray message program that's been part of the system just for hurricane watches and warnings. There's a tornado watch, severe thunderstorm watch, and this is what the alerts look like when it's a pop-up. I'll let you take a second to look through those. It's basically giving the key information. A lot of this comes right from the statement. And the pop-ups are limited to only 160 characters, and depending on your operating system, actually. There's a few more. And all of these can be emailed either with just that comment, the short comment, or with the full email. So for example here, I can't highlight it, but here we're looking at the initial statement that you would see on a pop-up. That's the header or the lead for the email, and then here's all the details beneath it. You can't see them all on this chart, but believe me, they go all the way down. So that's the aspect here of severe weather watch and warning. We have other types of notification going on too, but keep in mind that this one is specific to statements being put out by the National Weather Service, not some guy who's at a fire station who sees a tornado. That's something else. I told you this was going to be done on one take, so if I repeat myself, I'm trying to clarify it. The next one is storm report notification and alerting. This is the one where it's somebody at a fire station who sees a tornado. It's using the local storm reports, and let's click on that. And all this is on our website, by the way. For storm report notification and alerting, this is the local storm reports that come in, and we've enhanced the frequency that these are downloading to your system. We've changed the polling intervals on Hurrtrak Online, optionally down to 1 minute when there's severe weather. So it's been quite a few changes related to this. Anyhow, when there's a local storm report that comes in, for example, here's a good one: emergency manager reports tornado, blah, blah, blah. It'll get downloaded to your system within a minute or two of when it was actually released by the Weather Service. And then you can specify parameters on whether you want to see these. You just want to see the ones near you. You want to see the ones within 10 miles of a location, 100 miles of a location. We'll show you how that's all set up. But this is all for local storm reports. There's a few other examples. And these, just like the statements that go out, and you'll see LSR Tray Alert, that's what it is. Here we go. This would be an email example of that statement going out, and then further on down it would be this is actually a mixed bag of observations. So we'll get to that in a second. In any case, the key thing is we're looking at local storm reports that come out and making sure you get notified of those as soon as they're made public, so to speak. Okay, so the last one is, let me come down here, observed weather notification. We've got weather stations out there, lots of weather stations, and we've set up alerts that can be controlled by weather event, and we've only picked the severe weather events and also certain wind speeds, to where if there's a station within X miles of you with a certain condition, you'll be notified. So for example, if you're in Fort Lauderdale and you have a 50-mile radius and you want to know about all severe thunderstorms within 50 miles, and I think it's 50 miles, and Palm Beach International gets a severe thunderstorm, as long as they're within that distance, you'll get an alert of that. Now we're going to try to make it perhaps directional down the road, but for now it's just a circle. So if you're in Fort Myers and you have a 100-mile radius and Miami's getting a severe thunderstorm, as an example, you'll know about it. You can't just say just to the north and west. Of course, north and west of Fort Myers is mostly water, unless you go north to Tampa. In any case, this is observed weather. I think when we go through the setup for these, it'll make sense. So these are the three that, I don't know if I went there or not. Here are some examples. A severe thunderstorm is 16 miles from a certain location. A heavy thunderstorm has been observed at Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood. And another one, a certain wind speed's been observed within a distance of you. Heavy rain is one of the parameters. And then all this can be put into an email and either sent out individually or sent out as a group. And understand that all this is based on location. And you can set this up so that, let's say you have 100 locations, or let's say you're a Waffle House and you have 1,000 locations across the Southeast. You're going to set up these parameters perhaps for every location. And you can send an email to the location that has been affected, so to speak. So let's say instead of Waffle House, let's just say Walmart or something. And Walmart in Minneapolis, to the east of Minneapolis, you've set these up so that any tornado or weather event occurs within 50 miles, and let's say Minneapolis has a tornado warning. What'll happen, if you want it to, is an email can be sent out to the main user and also to the person in charge of Minneapolis Walmart, if you want to set it up that way. And to do that, we've added some fields, and we'll look at those, to the location database. And one of those is an email address. As we go down the list, you'll see that later down here. Digital weather forecasting query, it'll allow you to point and click on the map using the observation program, and you can show either a text forecast similar to the Weather Service or digital type forecast that looks more like that. And we're going to see how we can expand the use of that over time, but this is kind of the initial foray into querying forecast data off on the internet, in this case from NOAA, and bringing it back to the user. Next one is location database enhancements. We've mentioned that we've added an email. We've also added 5 additional reference fields. Here's an example of what it might look like for a user. And I've blanked out, this is a real report, I've blanked out some names there, but in this case what we've added is 5 reference field, and the way the user has decided to use it is we already have location and state, but they've added a field for division, and that could be called reference 1, reference 2 is regional director, reference 3 is district manager, city could be reference 4, and county could be reference 5, and this happens to be on an impact report. And in this way, and it's actually a report that would be created via an Excel export. The user can get all that location information in to their database and not have to figure it out or merge it later for their end users. In this case, it's a company that has a lot of stores, and they want to send a report out that includes this key information. Another field is the email address, which doesn't show up on this report, but that's been added to support this alerting capability we're introducing. I might say, gee, there's a lot of stuff in here, perhaps not related to hurricanes, but keep in mind severe weather threat when it becomes enhanced when a hurricane makes landfall. But the added benefit is we're going to keep this running 365 days a year so that you'll be able to use this alerting feature year-round. So no longer is Hurrtrak just for hurricanes. GIS database, we've expanded that to include, I got cut off there, all of the U.S. Before we just headed for hurricane-prone states. Storm surge improvements, we're going to be putting the latest slosh basins in. It looks like a couple new ones, or one new one and one updated one. New one being for South Florida, and the update being for San Juan. You will not have to worry about that. The data's not even in the beta yet. So let's take a look at each one of these, and hopefully it all comes together. We'll start with the observation program. Here's the observation program. I've gotten rid of all the data because I want to focus on the severe weather portion. Normally when you bring this up, it might have all sorts of data on it like that. But I'm going to select, you can't see it down here, wonder if we can do this where you can see what I'm doing on the bottom, but I'm going to select the none option, meaning I don't want to see any data. We'll try this. Hopefully this isn't too small since I'm making this video in a 1080p kind of resolution. So we'll try it this way. Anyway, down here, if I hit none, I'll get rid of all that data. What I want to do is show you how the severe weather thing works. These are the new commands up here. Display all watches and warning types. If you just want to display just tornado warnings, you select that. Thunderstorm warnings, special weather statements, tornado watches, and severe thunderstorm watches. Now there are none out there right now, so I'm going to show you what this last option is, which is calendar. And I'm going to select a prior date. Now I do know, I think February 24th had some activity. Let's find out. Yeah, that had the data, that had the activity up in Virginia. So I'm going to zoom into that area. You already start seeing things. All right, so we're seeing the thunderstorm or tornado watch. I'm going to get rid of all the watches, but that's the hashtags there. Not hashtag, the hash shading. So what we're looking at here is a combination of things. I'm going to get rid of the special weather statements, which are the yellow ones, and I'm going to get rid of severe thunderstorm warnings. So we're only looking at tornado warnings. So let's zoom on in to that area, and that's the beauty of this, is you're able to zoom all the way down to street level. So here's the tornado. It'll display on the right side here the text for the tornado, and also as a pop-up. So you can zoom right on in so you can see that this one is headed towards Durham. When this little triangle is filled in, it means it's a confirmed tornado as opposed to just radar. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. This is that expanded database I was talking about. Let's just look at severe thunderstorm warnings for fun. Okay, same type thing. Severe thunderstorm warning, the data's on the right. It also displays as a pop-up. Okay, so I've zoomed out. Now if I hit this solid triangle here, or this triangle up here, it'll display everything. And if I hit it again, everything will go away. So that's how you can control that. When you're using this date, when I assume you will probably use this, understand it's only going to show the activity at that specific time, not a date range. So in this case, the time is 5:32. If any of these tornado warnings were issued at 5:30, you'll see them. But if they were issued at 5:35, you wouldn't. So it's for a specific point in time. And when you're done and you want to go back to current time, you just reset the current date and time. This has nothing to do with alerting, just how you would look at them when they are occurring. You go right to the observation program. And when you do, there will be a little flashing symbol up here if there are any active watches or warnings. So hopefully that's helpful. You can use the backgrounds, whatever you like, to make this more usable. Usually when I zoom in like this, and some of these colors I may change, I get rid of the watches because you kind of lose the detail of where the hashing is, or the shading, I guess I should say. Now what often is pretty useful during an actual event is to show the local storm reports. And the way the local storm report option works, it doesn't work off that calendar. It's only going to show the ones that are within the last 3 hours now, in which case there are none. But during an actual event, you can look at the local storm reports as they come in, which gets kind of interesting with all the tornado warnings. You can see the damage reports behind it, whether there are tornadoes reported, etc. So keep that in mind. I also turn off labels often because they're it's more useful or easier to move around your mouse and point at things. When the labels get in the way, they tend to get in the way. Like that. Also, every 5 minutes this will update. So if you're running in past mode, you have to be careful. It might reset, and you might have to go back to this earlier time. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back and say reset the current time, and all that will vanish. Across the country, there is nothing going on. There are some local storm reports up here with strong winds. You can see what I mean with those labels. So if I get rid of those labels, you can see those reports a little bit easier. This just has to do with non-thunderstorm winds. So let's take a look on how we set up these 3 different levels of alerts. And for that, we're going to move our way into the corner, and I'm going to have to enlarge this to make it a little bit more visible to you. Okay, so first let me just show you the timer program. And I double click on that. I'm going to move it on over. You'll see that there's a couple new data fields. There's several new databases, but one of them is the National Weather Service products. Those are all the statements that are put out, and the last time one was updated. And also the local storm reports have their own database now. They didn't before. And it shows the last time that was updated. So there's a few new. Boy, we started with just 2 or 3 of these, and we started the system, and now we are up to 10 of them or more. In any case, that's how the timer program has changed a little bit. But now let's get to the tray alert. If I right-click on it, there's some options. Some of these are the same. Redisplay last message. That would be an example of one. Let me get that out of there. And it brought up something I didn't want it to. Display prior or recent messages is an important one. This shows all of, and I'm bringing it down from the center of the screen, the statements that were put out or were alerted on. So, special weather statement for Orlando, Hillsborough, thunderstorms in different places. This was all the testing I've been doing. But and you can also just pick one, like heavy thunderstorm. Oh, let's see, special weather statement for Orlando. If you click on that, and I say show on map, it should, brings up the map and shows you what that looked like at the time. So it's a good way of looking at past events. And then it brings up the observation program to do that. So you can look at history that way also after you've experienced it, of course. Your table will be empty when you start the process, when you install the 2016 version. Let's go back to this. So that was last message, prior messages. Hurricane message options are the same as before with one change. This may look familiar. I've rearranged it a little bit, but this allows you to find which hurricane type conditions or hurricane data type conditions you want to be alerted of. New storm formation, storm category upgrade, downgrade, initial storm watch or warning, new tropical weather outlook. A lot of these I keep unchecked because they get annoying every time new recon data comes in. And you pick the basics. So this will look very similar to what you have right now. Excuse me, I had a cough there. With the 2015 version, with one important difference. Email. You're now allowed to email these notifications, where before it was just a tray alert. So that's one important difference, and you can also group those into a single email. And you can specify a single email, or you can specify a group, whatever you'd like there. This on the right just allows you to pick one of the other emails that you may have stored in your system. However, if you don't have any stored in your system, you can just type one in here as long as it's valid. Okay, I'm going to cancel out of that. I'm going to come back to this. There's a lot of stuff going on in that system tray now. Here's the two new options. National Weather Service watch and warning event options. I'm going to bring it down. And first of all, there's an overall active, inactive. So if you don't want to get involved with the watch and warning alerts, then you would uncheck that. You have two types of locations you can specify: a base location and a location group. This is the same location groups that's been in the system forever. If you just want your base location to be alerted, then you can just specify that and change your base location whatever you want. And then you can specify whether you want tray notification and emails sent out, or just emails, or just tray notifications. Sometimes the tray notifications can get annoying if there's a lot of them. However, if you're working on your desktop, you might want those. We probably need a way to cancel out of those notifications. Haven't figured that quite yet, because sometimes if you get 10 of them at once, you're just trying to click your way through it. In any case, this example would send out an email to George and also pop up a system tray whenever Norcross had and there's two different conditions here. We're inside a tornado warning, thunderstorm warning, special weather statement, tornado watch, or severe thunderstorm watch area. If you pick location group and add that to it, then I'll just pick I'll pick Waffle House. Then it will also examine whether any of those Waffle House locations, this all happens when new data comes into the system, which is happening every minute or so. It'll examine every Waffle House location to see if they have any of these warnings. If they do, it'll send an email to you, if you're George, and it will also, because this is checked, also send to location's email address, provided you've actually defined it in the location database. It'll send an email out to that location also. Now, if you have something like this, I would suggest you don't show the tray notification, or you can get a lot of those, and just rely on emails. And then the other options here are to group alerts into a single email, except for the one that goes to Waffle House location, and include the entire statement text as opposed to just the header that gives the highlight of what's going on. Okay, so some of this you'll just have to play with. If you really want to get a lot of hits for testing, you can go here and select, you can get a lot of them, the counties database, which is actually one point per the county in the center of the county. And when you get severe weather, that's going to get a lot of hits. Again, I would undo system tray notification if you're going to do that. Down here is a little different. What this is saying is if there's a tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning, or a special statement that's within a certain distance of your location or any of those locations, then it's going to send out an alert there also. So perhaps you're 10 miles away from a tornado warning. You may want to be notified of that. And you can define that and set the parameters here. Right now I just have them set at 20. This may sound complicated, but I think as you use it, it's not as complicated as it sounds. I would kind of start, although you're not going to see much unless you're in the middle of severe weather, with just your base location and see how that works out. Of course, you can always define these numbers pretty large. So if you make this 600 miles, you'll see any severe thunderstorm, tornado, or thunderstorm statement within 600 miles of you. But provided you don't click off system tray, then it shouldn't be too much of a problem, meaning too many alerts. All right, so hopefully that makes some sense. The next one might look more complicated. So let's look at this last one, the local storm reports weather message. And there's two options, simple and advanced. We're going to start with simple. And simple means you have one location, and it's your base location. You can do tray notification or emails. That's the same. And you can also group those into a single email if you'd like. And what it is if any of this weather occurs within 60 miles, and in this case, that gets observed within the last 4 hours, you want to be notified of it. The reason we selected a high number like 240 minutes is because some of these reports come in after the fact, and perhaps we're interested in things that occurred even though they're not an immediate threat. If you want only immediate threat type things, you can change this to perhaps 30 minutes, 60 minutes. But understand these storm reports go into the Weather Service and then they push them out. So they're usually not within 5 or 10 minutes. There's usually, the closest they get are within 10, 15 minutes of your current time. In any case, you can go through and say, I don't really care about blizzards, fog, debris flow, sleet, rip currents, ice storm, etc. And you will not be notified of those, only the ones you have checked. Okay? And on the bottom, this keeps going, this is the observed weather. So for example, if Atlanta Airport, and I'm north of Atlanta by 20 miles, has a heavy thunderstorm, I'll be alerted. If they have any of these other things, I will not be. Okay, and this is from official weather stations. This is from people in the street seeing things occur. Could be the guy at the fire station again. All right, so that's the simple one. If I change this to advanced, a few things change. Now, not just your base location can be included, also any location group. We can do the Waffle House again. In addition, you can email not just to yourself, but also to that location group. So if I check that off and I check that off, it'll also send alerts to the person at that Waffle House site, assuming they're not in the middle of making hash browns. These two parameters are, say, the same, 60 minutes, 240, and you can change those. The other change is we've altered the distance by weather event. So maybe you want to know about, I don't know, a blizzard within 100 miles, a coastal flood within 23 miles, debris flow within 56 miles, fog within 5 miles, downburst within 78 miles. You get the idea. You can change these based on what it is. Right now, and you can set them all to the default distance. You can change this, for example, to 50 and say set to default. I don't know if you can see that. And everything becomes 50. Okay? You can also, for wind reports, you can filter reports to only show winds greater than 40 knots. So for example, this non-thunderstorm wind gust, if that's 35 knots, it will not show it. That's kind of low. So you can change that to a number, I don't know, let's say it's only 60 knots or greater. So a downburst, some of the others, you only see them if they're greater than 60 knots, and you can change this to any value you want. Finally, the values down here, again, heavy thunderstorm, and you can set the distance other than the default, just like we showed on the simple. Let me go back to simple. Okay, so that's simple, that's advanced. And finally, we added sustained winds measured at weather stations above certain values you'd be notified of. Now, when I did this, it seemed relatively uncomplicated, but as I explain it, unless you really think about each parameter and what it's doing, it can get somewhat complicated. That's why we start with the simple, which you could do for testing if you want before you get to the advanced. Change this to simple. And perhaps you want to see how this works. You can set this criteria up to, 1,000 miles. I don't think you want to do that, though. 1,000's a lot. I don't know. 600 miles. And save the changes down here. Save and exit. And see what happens. If you feel pretty comfortable, go right to the advanced and just work through each parameter, provided you understand it. We don't have any help text for this. This video is the best you've got. Okay, I'm going to cancel out of that. That's all there is to it. Pretty simple, huh? Let's take a look at just a couple small changes. Location maintenance. We have added additional locations, by the way, too. The locations under advanced data entry have those additional fields over here, email and 5 reference fields. Now this isn't the title of the reference field, this is the data. So in this Aaronsburg, Pennsylvania, maybe the email is aa@gmail.com. The reference field 1 for your organization is going to be something like number of customers in that city. So they have 34. Perhaps the regional or the manager or the contact for, that's your insurance company. So you have 34 people insured there. You have the main contact is Bob Stokes. Perhaps you have his phone number, 555-1212. And so you know for all your data that reference field 1 is number insured, reference field 2 is Bob Stokes, reference field 3 is phone number, and whatever these other 2 would be. Okay, most people will not be using those additional reference fields, but it's there. Looking at the user preferences, not too many really. Hurrtrak Online, automatic polling, this is your Hurrtrak Online options. Automatic polling, there's a new option that says allow 1-minute polling during severe weather. What will happen is these intervals here, which are normally set over 5 minutes. So let's say Western Pacific, we want to check every 15 minutes, the Atlantic every 5. Well, you don't want to be notified of a tornado warning in your area 5 minutes later. So if you have this checked, then that's the default. The timer program, when it sees any weather service alerting going on anywhere in the country, or statements I should say, it's going to change that to 1-minute polling. So during times of severe weather, it'll be looking every minute. At times when there isn't any severe weather, it will default back to these time frames. The old days when data was critical, bandwidth, this might have been a problem, but nowadays bandwidth values are so much higher and the speed of our internet is so much quicker that 1-minute polling is not a big deal. But if it becomes a problem at your site for some reason, you can always uncheck it and keep the standard polling intervals. Okay, so we've gone over the severe weather watch and warning. Storm report notification alerting, observed weather. We haven't looked at this, and we've looked at the database changes and the changes to the user options. We haven't looked at this digital weather forecast query. We'll end with that. It's a pretty simple one. Let me open the observation program. And I'll bring it. Oh, we have a flashing. See the flashing thing there? That indicates there's an active watch or warning somewhere. So we're going to click on that. Go back to the entire USA, and it's actually occurring over here in Idaho. It's better than nowhere. And they've got some weak thunderstorms. I don't know why they decide to even mention it. I guess there's some hail. But that would be an example of when something's occurring. I don't think there's any storm reports from out that way. But you could zoom in and look at the weak thunderstorms in Idaho. I guess that's a big deal up there. But what I wanted to do is get to the weather forecast option. I'm going to show no weather. And you could go to a spot. Let's go up to Rochester, New York. You could display forecast description. Now, this is going out to the Weather Service. If their servers are slow, then this will be slow. Okay, this is showing just part of it. So I clicked on, the nearest location was McDougal, New York. It's around there. And forecast on February 4th is snow tonight, tomorrow, high of 29. It's a horrible weather up there, 14 degrees for April. And you can just see the worded forecast. It's similar to the point-and-click forecast you get from the Weather Service. If I pick on the same spot, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. If you just hit display forecast table, it'll go out and a little bit faster actually, bring in sort of the digital data. Light snow, the amount of snow. This is every 3 hours, the temperature, average temperature, and weather conditions, precipitation, etc. So you can see, as like the other one showed, pretty lousy weather up in that part of the world for the first few days or the first week or so of April. So that's really it. Hopefully this storm reporting stuff becomes a little clearer as you use it. And give me feedback on how well this video did in explaining those options to you, because I'm going to have to make a video for the general public, and that is needs to be very clear. So that's it. Let me know how it's going. Let me know when you've installed, when it's working, when it's not working, etc. Thanks.